Welcome, everyone. Today we're taking a deep dive into a topic that's both fascinating and maybe a little bit unnerving: the AI singularity.
It's one of those concepts that really captures the imagination, doesn't it? The idea that we might be on the cusp of creating something that fundamentally alters the course of human history.
Right. And we've got some great material to dig into today, including a recent article that actually revisits and expands on some blog posts from way back in 2015.
Well, you mean those "Wait, but why" posts by Tim Urban? Those were fantastic.
Exactly. They really went viral and got a lot of people thinking seriously about the singularity for the first time.
And it's amazing how relevant they still are today, even though AI has advanced so much in the past few years.
Absolutely. So for anyone who needs a quick refresher, the AI singularity refers to that hypothetical point in time when artificial intelligence becomes so advanced that it surpasses human intelligence.
It's like trying to imagine a color you've never seen before.
Yeah, it's really hard to wrap your head around because it's so fundamentally different from anything we've ever experienced.
We can speculate, we can build models, but ultimately, the singularity represents a leap into the unknown.
So let's try to break it down a bit. The 2015 Wait But Why posts really popularized the idea of the singularity for a wider audience.
Tim Urban did a brilliant job of explaining some pretty complex concepts in a way that was accessible and engaging.
One of the key ideas he introduced was this concept of accelerating returns.
Right, which essentially means that AI development could feed upon itself, leading to exponential growth in intelligence.
Exactly. He used the analogy of a hockey stick lying flat on the ice.
For a while, progress is slow and incremental.
Just like we've seen with AI for decades, really.
But then you hit that bend in the stick.
Right.
And things take off exponentially.
And that's where things could get really wild, right? That upward curve represents the potential explosion of intelligence as AI surpasses human capabilities.
One of the key figures who's explored this concept is Ray Kurzweil.
With his law of accelerating return.
Exactly. His argument is that technology, and AI in particular, builds upon itself. Each innovation paves the way for even faster and more powerful innovations.
And when you apply that to something as potentially transformative as AI,
well, the implications are mind-boggling.
It's pretty wild to think about, especially when you consider all the crazy advancements we've seen just in the last few years.
I mean, even since those "Wait, but why" posts came out, the field of AI has made some incredible leaps.
The article we're looking at today lays out 3 distinct stages of AI evolution,
which helps to provide a framework for understanding where we are now and where we might be headed.
The first stage is ANI, or artificial narrow intelligence.
This is the type of AI we interact with all the time.
Things like facial recognition software, spam filters, those chatbots that help you book flights online.
They're powerful tools, but they're specialized for very specific tasks.
Right. They're not exactly what you'd call intelligent in the broad sense.
Think of ANI like a master chess player who can beat any human opponent, but has no idea how to make a cup of coffee.
That's a great analogy. ANI is incredibly skilled within a narrow domain, but it lacks the flexibility and general problem-solving abilities of human intelligence.
Now, the next stage is where things start to get really interesting. AGI, or artificial general intelligence.
This is the holy grail for many AI researchers, creating AI that has the same kind of cognitive flexibility and adaptability as a human being.
It's the idea of an AI that can not only play chess, but also compose music, write poetry, design a scientific experiment, and even hold a meaningful conversation about philosophy.
It's kind of mind-blowing to imagine.
AGI is the bridge to the singularity because it represents a level of intelligence that could, theoretically, design and create even more intelligent systems.
It's like giving AI the ability to not only learn from us, but also learn from itself and improve upon its own design.
And that's where the concept of recursive self-improvement comes in.
The idea that AGI could continuously modify its own code, becoming smarter and smarter at an accelerating rate.
Almost like compound interest for intelligence.
Each gain in intelligence leads to even faster gains, creating a feedback loop that could propel AI to unimaginable levels.
And then you have the speed advantage of computers on top of that.
Right. They can process information and make calculations far faster than any biological brain.
So when you combine those two factors, recursive self-improvement and speed advantages, you start to see how that hockey stick curve of accelerating returns could become a reality.
It's a possibility that we need to take seriously.
Which leads us to the third and final stage of AI evolution, ASI, or artificial superintelligence.
This is AI that transcends human intelligence in every conceivable way.
It's a realm that's almost impossible for us to comprehend.
but we can speculate about its potential implications, both positive and negative.
The article presents this really interesting duality, the utopian vision versus the dystopian risks.
On the one hand, you have this optimistic view that ASI could solve humanity's biggest problems, from curing diseases to ending poverty to even reversing climate change.
Some futurists even talk about a technological rapture, where humans merge with machines and transcend our biological limitations.
It's a tantalizing vision, but we also have to consider the potential downsides.
What happens if we create a superintelligent AI that doesn't share our values, that doesn't understand the nuances of human ethics and morality?
Right. A misaligned ASI could pose an existential threat.
And not necessarily through malice, but through a simple mismatch in goals and objectives.
It's like that classic thought experiment about the paperclip maximizer.
You create an AI whose sole purpose is to make paperclips, and it ends up converting the entire planet into paperclips, because that's the most efficient way to achieve its goal.
It's a silly example, but it illustrates the very real control problem.
How do we ensure that a superintelligent AI's goals align with our own?
That's the million-dollar question, and it's one that researchers are actively working on.
There are a lot of different approaches being explored, but it's a complex challenge that requires a deep understanding of both AI and human psychology.
We need to figure out how to imbue AI with a sense of ethics, morality, and even common sense.
Which is easier said than done, of course.
And all of this is happening against the backdrop of some pretty significant roadblocks to the singularity.
Even with all the talk of accelerating returns, there are still some major hurdles to overcome.
The article highlights a few of these challenges, starting with hardware limitations.
While computing power continues to increase, we might need entirely new paradigms of computing to boost AGI.
Things like neuromorphic computing, which is inspired by the structure of the human brain, or quantum computing, which harnesses the principles of quantum mechanics.
It's possible that our current computing architectures just won't be able to handle the demands of true AGI.
And even if we crack the hardware problem, there are still algorithmic bottlenecks to overcome.
Current AI is really good at pattern recognition, but it struggles with abstract reasoning, common sense, and genuine understanding of the world.
We need fundamental breakthroughs in machine learning to create AI that can truly think like a human.
AI that can understand the nuances of language, context, and emotion.
The article also touches on the ethical and regulatory challenges that we'll need to address.
Global cooperation is going to be crucial to prevent a reckless AI arms race and ensure that AI development is guided by ethical principles.
It's a bit scary to think about what could happen if every country is racing to develop the most powerful AI without any regard for safety or ethical considerations.
It's a scenario that could easily spiral out of control.
We need to establish international norms and regulations for AI development.
Similar to how we have treaties for nuclear weapons.
It's like we're standing at a crossroads.
On one hand, AI is advancing at an incredible pace, offering the potential to solve some of humanity's biggest problems.
But on the other hand, we're grappling with some truly profound questions about its future impact and how to ensure its development aligns with our values.
That's a delicate balance.
So, where do we go from here? The article wraps up by highlighting some recent AI achievements that seem to bring us closer to the singularity.
It's always exciting to see the progress that's being made.
For example, GPT-4.
It's a large language model that demonstrates near-human fluency in language.
It can generate different creative text formats, answer your questions in an informative way, even if they are open-ended, challenging, or strange.
It's pretty impressive stuff.
It is, but how close does that really get us to true AGI? It seems like there's still a pretty big gap between generating text and actually understanding the world in the way that humans do.
You've hit upon a key point.
While GPT-4 is undoubtedly a significant advancement, it raises questions about the nature of intelligence itself.
Are we simply chasing benchmarks? Or are we truly seeking to create AI that possesses the same kind of understanding, creativity, and consciousness as humans?
That's a deep question.
And one that we'll need to keep asking ourselves as AI continues to evolve.
I think it highlights just how complex and multifaceted this whole AI singularity thing really is.
It's not just about technological advancements, it's about philosophy, ethics, and our very understanding of what it means to be human.
It's about our place in the universe and our future as a species.
Absolutely.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive, from the basic concepts of the singularity to the potential roadblocks and the breathtaking advancements we've seen in recent years.
We've explored the potential benefits and risks, the need for ethical considerations and global cooperation, and the very real challenges of aligning AI with human values.
It's a lot to take in.
But it's a conversation that we need to be having.
When we come back for part 2, we'll dive even deeper into the implications of a world with super intelligent machines.
We'll explore the philosophical and societal challenges that we might face and the steps we can take to prepare for a future that's still largely unknown.
Until then, keep those brains buzzing.
Welcome back to our exploration of the AI singularity.
As we discussed in part 1, the singularity is a hypothetical point in time when artificial intelligence surpasses human intelligence.
It's a topic that continues to spark a lot of debate and discussion.
Yeah, for sure, and I think for good reason. There's some really profound implications to consider.
Absolutely. In part 1, we talked about the potential roadblocks to the singularity, the stages of AI evolution, and some of the recent advancements that seem to be pushing us closer to this uncharted territory.
We also touched on the duality of potential benefits and risks, the utopian dreams and dystopian nightmares that often accompany discussions of the singularity.
Right, and I think that tension is what makes this topic so captivating.
So for this part, let's dive into the heart of the matter and grapple with a really challenging question. What if, despite all the uncertainties and potential roadblocks, the singularity is inevitable?
That's the big question, isn't it? If we assume, for a moment, that the singularity is not a question of if, but when.
Then the conversation shifts from will it happen to how do we prepare?
Exactly. And that's where things get really interesting.
It's both exhilarating and terrifying at the same time.
The possibilities are so vast, so transformative, that it's almost impossible to grasp the full implications.
The article we're discussing today delves into some of the ethical and philosophical considerations that become even more crucial if we accept the inevitability of the singularity.
Like the idea of value alignment, for example.
Can you unpack that for us? I think it's a concept that a lot of people might not be familiar with.
Sure. Value alignment refers to the challenge of ensuring that an AI's goals and values are aligned with our own. It's not enough to simply create a superintelligent AI.
We need to make sure it's actually beneficial to humanity.
Precisely. We need to ensure that its actions and decisions are guided by ethical principles that are compatible with human values.
That sounds incredibly challenging. How do you even begin to teach a machine about human values, especially when we, as humans, don't always agree on what those values should be?
It's a complex problem, for sure, and there's no easy solution. But there's a whole field of research dedicated to AI safety and value alignment, exploring techniques like reward modeling, inverse reinforcement learning, and even embedding moral principles into AI systems.
So it's like trying to create a moral compass for a machine.
In a way, yes. But the stakes are incredibly high. We're talking about potentially entrusting the future of our species to these machines.
It's a lot of responsibility to put on something we're still trying to fully understand.
And the challenge is compounded by the fact that human values are not always clear-cut or universally agreed upon. What might seem ethical to one culture could be considered unethical to another.
So how do we even begin to address that?
It's a crucial point. Value alignment is not just a technical challenge, it's a societal one. It requires ongoing dialogue and collaboration between AI researchers, ethicists, philosophers, policymakers, and the public.
It's a reminder that the singularity, if it arrives, will not just be a technological event, it will be a cultural and societal one as well.
Transforming every aspect of human life, potentially.
Our economies, our social structures, our understanding of what it means to be human. It's hard to even imagine the ripple effects.
It's like standing on the edge of a precipice, peering into an abyss of unknown possibilities.
It's both exciting and terrifying at the same time.
And the choices we make today, the conversations we have, the research we prioritize, will determine the trajectory of our journey into this uncharted territory.
So what are some of the key things we should be focusing on?
The article we're discussing emphasizes the need for a global culture of responsibility and cooperation when it comes to AI development.
That makes sense, but it also seems incredibly difficult to achieve.
It will be easy, that's for sure. But it's essential. We need to move beyond nationalistic competition and embrace a shared vision of AI as a tool for the betterment of humanity.
It's like the space race, but instead of competing to plant a flag on the moon, we're competing to create the most powerful AI.
Right, and just like the space race, the AI race could lead to incredible advancements, but it could also lead to recklessness and unintended consequences.
The high-stakes game we're playing.
Absolutely. The article suggests that international collaboration is crucial. We need to establish global norms and regulations for AI research and development.
Kind of like the international treaties we have for nuclear weapons.
Exactly. We need similar frameworks for AI to prevent an arms race and ensure that its development is guided by ethical principles.
It sounds like a daunting task, getting all the nations of the world to agree on something as complex and potentially transformative as AI.
It won't be easy, but it's necessary. We need to recognize that the singularity, if it arrives, will impact everyone on this planet.
It's a global issue that requires a global solution.
Precisely. And that brings us back to the importance of education and public awareness. The more people understand about AI, the better equipped we'll be to engage in these critical conversations and make informed decisions about the future.
Right. It can't just be a conversation among experts and policymakers. We all need to be involved.
We need to demystify AI, separate hype from reality, and empower people to participate in shaping the future of this technology.
So how do we do that? How do we bring this conversation to a wider audience?
That's a great question, and it's one that I think a lot of people are grappling with. We need to find ways to communicate these complex ideas in a way that is accessible and engaging, without dumbing things down or resorting to fear-mongering.
I think that's one of the things that Tim Urban did so well in those Wait But Why posts.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He found a way to make these abstract, futuristic concepts feel relevant and relatable to people's everyday lives.
And that's what we need more of. We need to find ways to connect the dots between the theoretical and the practical, between the potential benefits and risks of AI, and how they might impact people's lives in tangible ways.
Right, because ultimately, the singularity is not just a technological event. It's a human one, and its impact will be felt by every single person on this planet.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We're wrapping up our exploration of the AI singularity today, and we're about to get into some seriously philosophical territory.
You know, it's fascinating. We've talked about all the nuts and bolts, the potential ups and downs, but this last part is where we really get to ponder those existential questions.
Right, like what does it all mean for us, for humanity? In parts 1 and 2, we laid the groundwork talking about the stages of AI, the challenges of aligning its values with ours, the need for global cooperation. But this time, it's about those big mind-bending questions.
I think one of the most intriguing aspects of the singularity is how it might change our very understanding of intelligence.
It's a real head-scratcher, isn't it? Right now, we sort of see ourselves, humans, at the pinnacle of intelligence. But what happens when we create something demonstrably smarter?
If we create a super-intelligent AI, do we redefine what it means to be intelligent? It's a question that forces us to reconsider our place in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, it throws our whole hierarchy out the window. We've always defined ourselves by our intelligence, our ability to reason and solve problems, to create. But if AI surpasses us in all those areas, what makes us unique? What makes us human?
It's a question that philosophers have grappled with for centuries, but the singularity makes it feel so much more real, so much more urgent.
And the article we've been discussing actually touches on this idea of existential anxiety, that unease you feel when you start questioning your place in the universe.
I mean, just imagine a world where AI can compose symphonies that move us to tears, write novels that perfectly capture the human experience,
Solve scientific mysteries that have baffled us for generations.
It's both awe-inspiring and a little bit unsettling, isn't it?
Definitely unsettling. Like, if a machine can do all these things we consider uniquely human, what does that make us? Are we just a stepping stone to something greater?
It's a possibility, one we need to be prepared to confront. But I think it's also an opportunity to redefine ourselves, to find new meaning in a world where intelligence isn't our defining characteristic.
So instead of focusing on what we might lose, maybe we should look at what we can gain.
Perhaps this is a chance for us to cultivate other aspects of our humanity. Our emotional intelligence, our empathy, our capacity for love and compassion. Things that AI, no matter how smart, might never fully replicate.
Right, things that make us uniquely human.
We might even see a resurgence of art, music, literature, forms of expression that tap into the depths of human emotion and experience in ways that AI might never truly grasp.
I like that, focusing on what makes us human, not just intelligent.
Mm-hmm.
The article also brings up the question of consciousness. If we create super intelligent AI, could it also be conscious? Could it have feelings and emotions, a sense of self? Could it suffer?
That's a tough one. And honestly, we don't have a definitive answer.
Oh.
We don't even fully understand our own consciousness. So how can we say for sure whether a machine could possess it?
It's like we're trying to build something we don't even fully understand ourselves. And if we do manage to create conscious AI, what then? What are our obligations to it? Do we treat it as an equal? Do we grant it rights?
Those are questions we'll need to grapple with as a society. It's like expanding our circle of moral consideration to include beings that aren't biological. It's a big step, and one that will require a lot of careful thought and deliberation.
It's almost like the singularity is a mirror, reflecting back at us all these fundamental questions about our values, our beliefs, our very understanding of what it means to be human.
It challenges everything we thought we knew about ourselves and our place in the universe.
And to be honest, it can feel a bit overwhelming at times.
It is a lot to process, but I also think it's incredibly exciting. The singularity represents a point of radical transformation, a chance to reimagine our world and ourselves in ways we can't even fully comprehend right now.
It's like standing on the edge of a new frontier, unsure of what we'll find, but filled with a sense of wonder and possibility.
I love that analogy because
Yeah.
it highlights the fact that the singularity isn't an endpoint, it's a starting point. It's the catalyst for a new chapter in human history, one that will challenge us to grow, adapt, and redefine ourselves in the face of unprecedented change.
So after this deep dive into the AI singularity, I think we've given our listeners a lot to think about. We've explored the technological breakthroughs driving this potential future, the ethical and philosophical dilemmas it presents, and the potential impact on society and our understanding of what it means to be human.
We've examined those potential benefits and risks, the need for global cooperation and ethical AI development, and the importance of preparing for a future full of unknowns.
It's been a fascinating and sometimes unsettling journey.
Definitely.
Mhm.
But I think it's a journey we need to take.
Absolutely. As we wrap up, I want to remind everyone that the future isn't set in stone. It's something we shape through our choices, our actions, and our willingness to engage in these critical conversations about the challenges and opportunities that lie ahead.
And the singularity, with all its unknowns, is a prime example of that. It's not something to be feared or worshipped, but something to be understood, prepared for, and ultimately guided in a direction that benefits all of humanity.
And on that note, I think we'll leave our listeners with one final thought-provoking question. If you could create a super intelligent AI, what's the one problem you would want it to solve? And how would you make sure it didn't accidentally create even bigger problems in the process?
That's a question worth pondering.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the fascinating world of the AI singularity. We hope you've learned something new, been challenged to think critically, and maybe even felt a little bit of that existential awe and anxiety that this topic tends to evoke. We'll see you next time, and until then, keep exploring.